So here's the beauty of this show is that you never know when our guy is recording, because he could have been recording like 5 minutes ago. He could be not recording now. But the good news is that we're talking, we're here, and we're all friends. That's what's important. But we do need a clacker. Again, we need one of those clackers that say episode
Keep
1.
us on track.
You made your point. We'll get a clacker.
Can we get a clacker, please? A clacker? I think they sell them at Hobby Lobby, actually.
We do payroll deductions, so we'll go ahead and get that.
And we don't need a clacker. Absolutely not.
We have number 1 in the house for episode number 1 of Behind the Star.
It's exciting.
Yes, it is.
It's been
the very first video podcast or podcast.
It's been in the works for a few months now. I remember you calling me up and saying, "Hey, I was laying in bed one day and I was thinking about something, and here we are."
Yeah, it's been about 2 or 3 months, I guess, that we've had a team together to prepare for this, and I'm excited about it. Hope it's something that the citizens of Bay County will look forward to seeing, and our goal is to show them really behind the scenes here at the sheriff's office, what we do and why we do what we do, and just be a way for them to experience some of the things that we do.
Transparency is important, and
Sure.
and to me, showcasing all the services that the sheriff's office provides, services that people don't even realize. Like, we have a dive team, we have a bomb squad unit, we have all these services that we provide that people don't realize. And I love that we have created a show that will episode by episode go through these services, and people don't know what happens in the jail. We go through the jail one show. I mean, it's just the possibilities for something like this are endless, and I'm really fortunate to be a part of it. I am.
Yes. Thank you.
I'm excited about it. Y'all have done a great job, and we've got our technical team behind the scenes here that worked really hard.
Mr. Producer.
We wanted it to be something that the Bay County could be proud of. That was that was professional and done well, and I think we'll get there.
Progress has been made, and progress doesn't take overnight. You've been the sheriff now for 7 years,
7
I
years.
believe.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, just 7 years of just, learning and creating, and, you adopted a few things like spring break, but there was also incidents that happened while you were the sheriff, and, more specifically,
no
the
one
timeline.
could have foreseen that this was going to happen. You had been here as the major, which was number 2 in command for many years. And kind of, I think everyone had the feeling it would just kind of roll forward, and we kind of knew what to expect. And then
crisis
stuff
hit.
happens.
So, I look at my first term, and maybe even my second term here as more of crisis management. We had some really tough things that happened. And I was so blessed to have learned under Sheriff McKeithen, and have had his mentorship and his friendship, and he would always tell me, he said, you just are not going to understand some of this until you're sitting in the chair. And I'm like, I've been sitting beside him for 6-7 years. I mean, he was hurt. as usual, he was right about that. It's different when you're the one making the final decision on that, especially in some of these situations that we're going to talk about that really challenged our agency and our community.
And we'll go through the timeline of those situations. We'll do that now, actually.
Okay.
The Beck Avenue incident that happened,
was
the
that
shooting.
2018?
That was
Spring,
May of 2018
May.
When that happened, and it was a homicide suspect from over in Walton County. They had asked us he was being developed as a suspect, and they had asked us to do surveillance on his apartment. Our criminal investigations division went over and began a surveillance, and at some point they began to take fire from an elevated position, which is our worst nightmare, when somebody is shooting at us from a position of
he was
advantage.
in that townhouse.
He was in a second-story
Yes.
apartment, and I remember getting that call. I was at IHOP on 23rd Street eating lunch with my mom, and got that call, and of course jumped in the car and arrived on scene. And shortly after arriving on scene, trying to get our heads and our hands around this situation, we had really the nightmare of having multiple deputies and officers from Panama City that were pinned down behind vehicles that were taking gunfire, or gunfire was hitting those vehicles, and they were trapped. So that was a very as serious as it gets. And so our number one priority was rescuing them. But as I arrived there and we started to kind of set up command, we were behind a department vehicle, a Ford Explorer, probably a quarter mile from the scene, and a round hit the front of that Explorer from the bad guy, and he had about 10 big men that became really tiny behind that car at that point. But really, our first priority was rescuing those officers and deputies, and we were able to get what we called the Pussycat at the time. The professional law enforcement armored vehicle is called the Bearcat. We kind of made one up out of a bank truck.
It's like a bread truck, right? Something like that.
Yeah, it was a armored bank car.
Okay.
Sheriff McKeithen found out through his trust but verify that it would not stop a rifle round. So our shop had put some additional metal in there so that it would. But what I found out when I was in the armored vehicle going with the team to take our people out with this guy from an elevated position, somebody pointed out that we forgot to put metal in the roof. And that was a little bit of a vulnerable feeling, but we got guys out, and we were able to, stop the subject. But it was a really, probably one of the most intense situations, tactical situations I've been in.
What did you carry away from that situation that you felt you wanted to see done differently or being able to respond differently?
So every crisis is an opportunity to learn from, both in training, how we train, our policies and procedures on how we respond to those situations. And then you identify deficiencies in your equipment that you may have. So we worked with the county commission. At the time we had no mobile command posts that was suitable for establishing command of that type of situation. In fact, Walton County brought theirs over, and that's what we used. So working with the county commission, we didn't just go out and buy a command post. We established a joint incident management team where people from the sheriff's office who have talent in managing emergency situations, EMS and fire emergency management, created this team that will come out to these type of situations or be at the EOC to help manage the situations. And then the mobile command vehicle is a tool for that team and people that are commanding the situation to work, give them a place to work from, technological tools, communications equipment, and things like that. We also, the armored, besides the Pussycat that we had that just really was made up, homemade, we had to bring armored vehicles from Okaloosa County and Walton County to help us with that situation. So we were able to make a pitch to the Domestic Security Task Force that, our area did not have that piece of equipment, and we respond regularly. Our SWAT team does as one of the regional teams to the surrounding counties. So through that grant, we were able to get a true armored vehicle, which is
called
important to me. It's called the Bearcat. Important to me because it protects our people when we're on these situations. It's got no offensive capability. It's not a tank. No. It is a vehicle that protects us from gunfire. Last Friday, we had a
barricaded
subject, and the ability to operate from a position of safety is really beneficial.
And that piece of equipment is so important, and these pieces of equipment get used a lot more than people think. A lot of incidents happen overnight that the public never even hears about. And so, when you have an incident like the Beck Avenue incident that affected basically the entire city, because as you're driving down the street, you can hear gunshots. You see the media across the street. You see, officers and deputies that are, armed and ready to.
Traffic is being rerouted.
Everything is going insane. Happening. So really, the public views these incidents, and they learn from it as well.
Absolutely.
And they're affected as well. The next big thing that affected everybody and is still affecting people 5 years later, as we hit the 5-year mark, was Hurricane Michael.
Absolutely.
Hurricane Michael, devastating to everybody. Devastating to the deputies who lost their houses, their belongings, devastating to the people of Bay County. How did you tackle that head on when that happened? Because we've never seen anything like that here.
So the watershed moment for Bay County. And again, like you said, Jake, we're still suffering the effects of that, both physically, infrastructurally, as well as it affects us emotionally.
Consequences as well.
Recently we had Hurricane Idalia that came and struck the Big Bend area, and that for the first time, we've had other hurricanes in the past 5 years, but that one really had an effect on me because it was, taking a similar track to Michael, and I felt those butterflies in my stomach and very concerned about it. But so that's still with us, and
Probably will be for a very long time.
But that really, I think it shaped how I treat the office of sheriff, which is an honor and a blessing to be sheriff. But really had this strong realization, actually through both of those incidents, that the deputies and the men and women of the sheriff's office are the ones that are out there keeping the public safe. And my job is to take care of them, provide the tools that they need, the training that they need, and a little love to make sure that they are able to take care of the public. And I remember after Hurricane Michael, we've got to feed our people. We had a grill about the size of this table. We were trying to feed 550 people on, and realized that wasn't working. So we were able to get on the phone as soon as we got a phone back and get a mobile kitchen coming, and we were able to feed them. We had tragically about 60 of our employees lost their homes during Hurricane Michael. We worked with the TDC and the county commission to provide housing for them. I mean, it was not something that they had to pay for, but if we expect them to show up every day to work and serve the community, we've got to provide for them. So we're able to do that. Community donations, St. Joe Community Foundation and others were able to provide funding that we were able to do grants to deputies to help with their expenses after the hurricane.
And that was incredible to me. Probably the most inspiring part of Hurricane Michael was the neighbors helping neighbors aspect.
Absolutely.
You had people that completely lost everything, but still helping others that also lost everything. And that goes right back to the deputies. 60 people lost their homes. 60 deputies lost their homes. However, they still put on that badge, put on that uniform, and went to help people who may not have lost as much as them, but they still went to go help them and make sure that they had everything they needed to feel safe and get back to their life.
Absolutely.
They were still serving, and their families
Families
were
as
dealing
well.
with what they had to deal with at what was left of a home.
Absolutely.
So I don't know if people, I'm sure they do understand this, that when the deputy, male or female, if the mom or the dad is out serving the community, the rest of the family is left to try to pick up the pieces. And that's where you're stepping forward as a help to make that a little bit easier. Like feeding. People didn't think about the fact that you go out for a 12-hour shift, there's nowhere to stop and have lunch.
Right.
There's nowhere to pick up food. And so you had to do that. And it happened very quickly.
Yeah, I'm just happy we got a place that serves a lot of hot dogs now. That's great.
That's right.
We got a bigger kitchen and a bigger generator. This is awesome.
I get really positive feedback from the community of our response to Hurricane Michael, because one of the vulnerabilities after a hurricane that you feel like those services that are not there to protect you and to provide for you. So we very quickly reached out to the Florida Sheriff's Task Force and the State Emergency Management, State EOC, to really kind of flood the zone with law enforcement resources. And the feeling as sheriff to see those other sheriffs rolling in force. At one point, we had 600 deputies, sheriffs from around the state here in Bay County, helping to protect the citizen. And
That's
I
a
think
good feeling.
I think it promoted a sense of calm over the county when they know, when they go out and they're cleaning up their yard, they've lost everything, but then they see a deputy, whether from another county in Florida come by, they know that they're, that they don't have to worry about that aspect of their recovery. And I feel like we really have a debt to pay for that. So the past 2 years, I've been the chair of the Florida Sheriff's Task Force, which is the mechanism by which the sheriffs provide mutual aid to other sheriffs. So we were kind of the point on responding to Hurricane Ian down in Central Florida and Idalia here recently, and it's gratifying to know that we can kind of pay that back on behalf of the citizens of Bay County, and we really have worked to increase our capabilities for if we had a storm that was here, that we could have the necessary tools to manage that, as well as if we have to take when we take a team, because I intend to send a team to everyone we can, because again, a great debt to repay.
And when you go self-contained.
Right.
So that something maybe we didn't realize before, Michael, is that when those teams came here, the ones that were prepared to take care of themselves, food, water, shelter, were nothing but pure help.
Absolutely.
Because we were not having to try to figure out where they were going to stay or how they were going to get water and showers and so forth. So that's what we also have done, is provided for our team when they go with a place to shower, sleep, food,
Right.
all of that, which is pretty amazing.
And we've done most of that, through the FEMA reimbursement process and other grants that we've been able to get through the Florida Sheriff's Association and Task Force to be able to have those capabilities.
We also have a new building,
We do, yeah.
and that came out of, probably it was on your mind for a while, but it came out of.
It was after
Hurricane
Hurricane Michael.
Michael.
We lost some of our outbuildings here at the Sheriff's Office. And through the legislature several years ago, Senator Gaynor and Representative Trumbull were able to obtain funding to build a new training building and a station basically to house some of this specialty equipment so we can take care of it for years to come as opposed to having it sitting out in the back lot.
Yes,
Now,
exposed to elements.
Speaking of training, this job is a learning process.
Absolutely.
You learn something every day. I remember when I first got hired, that was one of the first things you told me. You learn something new every single day. With the nationwide crisis that has been going on with these mass school shootings that have been happening, it seems like you've taken the initiative to really ramp up the training when it comes to how we respond to these incidents. Why don't you go ahead and walk me through, because I'm seeing a difference between the years past and now on how we train with these incidents that happen.
Parkland shook me to the core. I mean, when you list these crises that we've been through, and since I've been sheriff, beginning to take it kind of personal actually, but Parkland was one of those that really had an effect on me. And I remember meeting with Bill Husfeldt as the superintendent the day after Parkland, and we began to put some things in place that I think has put us in a good place to both prevent and respond to those type of situations. For years, we've been tactically training to respond to those type of situations, and I felt fairly comfortable in our ability to respond tactically to one of those situations. Again, every crisis you learn something from, and if you don't improve from that, then you're not doing your job. What we learned after Parkland is single deputy response, single officer response to an active shooter. That if you're the only one there, if you're the school resource deputy there, or you're the first arriving deputy, then you have got to go in and eliminate that threat as quickly as possible.
Right.
We've really ramped up that type of training. We have also found that during Parkland and some of these other shootings that you have got to get emergency care in there quickly. We evolved from Columbine, where the process for law enforcement, the protocol at that time was to set up a perimeter and wait for SWAT to clear every nook and cranny before anybody went in. A lot of kids died.
Yes.
And I'm not faulting their response. They have not yet learned from previous incidents. So we really began to focus on training with other agencies, and importantly, began to focus on how we manage one of those incidents. So we brought in a training called Active Shooter Incident Management. We brought in the basic level. We brought our partners with the police departments, had all the police chiefs on board with it, EMS and fire, to begin to really drill down and focus on how we would respond and manage the resources, learning from some of these previous incidents. So we are now progressed to the point over the past 4 years to where we're at an advanced level of training. We brought in a 3-day course on advanced active shooter incident management training. Feel very good about where we are with that. But we're going to, every time there's one, we're going to study it, and we're going to make improvements and kind of make sure that we're on the cutting edge of keeping our kids safe.
And between all these incidents, between the Beck Avenue incident, the Hurricane Michael, between everything, every year it happens. Every year it comes and goes.
March comes,
and we can't stop. It's spring break, which is something that you inherited when you became sheriff.
Yep.
Frank McKeithen really started the process of turning Bay County and Panama City Beach into a family destination. It seems like you are kind of taking that ball and really rolling with it, and things have been really calming down within the past couple of years, and that's a credit to you and the work that not only you but also all the deputies are doing to really clamp down on that.
A lot of partnerships involved with that. But, I learned from the best. Sheriff McKeithen worked as his chief deputy for 6 or 7 years prior to becoming sheriff. And, he really credited for drawing that proverbial line in the sand that what was happening during spring break was something we were not going to tolerate as a community. And our community, eventually adopted that. We put some ordinances in place. Yeah. We really put a lot of resources out to show those that came with ill will that we're not going to tolerate that. And we've certainly continued that. Of course, 2022 was a rough year where we began receiving information on a takeover event and monitoring social media and getting the resources in place for that. But during that weekend, I think we arrested 170 people and 75 illegal guns were seized. So those were not people that were coming here to enjoy our beach and have a good time. They
and spend money.
Had bad intent.
Right. They were coming here to commit crimes.
Right.
Is what they were doing. And you had placed some things already. Bayrock.
Right.
Our real-time Operation Crime Center was already in place. The air unit had the FLIR on it, and those were invaluable tools.
Right. Yeah, Bayrock is something that has been really changed the way that we do law enforcement. It's the Bay Real-Time Operations Center, and it's not just an initiative with the Sheriff's Office. It's truly a joint effort and initiative by our police chiefs to utilize technology to help us solve crime and keep the community safe, but also utilize our partnerships as well. So Bayrock actually started in this room that we're doing this show from. Now it's gone to a bigger facility.
Now it looks really cool. Now it looks like a Bourne movie.
Looks like NASA.
Yeah,
it does.
But we've got analysts from Panama City Beach and Panama City in there. We work regularly with all the police departments and using license plate reader technology, and camera technology, monitoring calls for service, and really providing information to the deputies as they're responding. And it really showed the benefit during that 2022 spring break takeover, where we were able to kind of know what was coming because we were monitoring and mining social media and seeing these promoters saying, let's all come take over Panama City Beach. And we said, don't think so.
Yeah, don't think so.
I think the fruits of our labor really paid off this year, 2023 spring break, because the incidents were practically almost non-existent. I mean, it was great. Last year, though, before we leave, I want to show a video of what happened last year, which was the shooting that happened right by Pineapple Willie's in that area, Lake Town Wharf area. Caleb, if you could throw on our video, we're gonna show you the video, Sheriff. If you want to walk us through what we're looking at, especially the doggy that we're about to see, which I'm very excited about. So
he loves the dogs.
I love the dogs.
We all love the
canines
dogs.
Are great.
So this video is from Sunday afternoon, kind of where we thought we had gotten through the worst of it, and people were starting to go home. And we did have a shooting down in the Long Beach area. Both Panama City Beach officers and our deputies heroically responded to that. And took the subject into custody. But I think during that weekend, working with Chief Talamentes and Chief Smith and all of our police departments, we really kind of set the tone that this is not something that was going to be tolerated in Bay County. Through the resources that we put out there, the arrests we made, really some of the media stuff that we did that went out to multiple states on this is. If you come to Bay County to try to take over, this is what you're going to be met with.
And when they met that unified response, very strong, they found out very quickly this was not the place to be.
What I love about this is when you watch the video, you see both uniforms. You see green uniforms, you see blue uniforms, all working together for one purpose, and that's to, one, figure out what's going on, take down the shooter, figure out who shot and who's hurt, and really taking care of business, making everyone safe.
We don't see it in this video, but there was also the air unit providing that real time, because you could go into Bayrock and watch what the air unit was seeing, that perspective, and you can direct your ground troops.
We've got the capability to push video out from the helicopter to our patrol units and Bayrock and kind of get a good operating picture. We've used that on these situations, but also vehicle pursuits, and manhunts, and things like that. But what I want to emphasize is one of our strongest points that we have here in Bay County. I worked with FDLE for many years, and I've worked in probably half the counties of the state of Florida, and not all areas or counties have the relationships that we have with the police department. It's something to treasure. Our police chiefs and their agencies are our best partners in keeping this county safe, and I just feel so blessed by that. But I've gone to other areas where the police department won't even talk to the sheriff's department, and the sheriff's department won't talk with a certain police department, and it's just not in the best interest of public safety or the citizens. So we're
I think
blessed.
across the board, we have Bay District schools we work
Absolutely.
with. We're just very blessed to have that kind of unified response to anybody who wants to come here
Absolutely.
and try to break
And
the
I
law.
think that worked to our advantage this year. I mean, because it wasn't that, this year during spring break, it wasn't that nobody was trying to
Right.
do anything. There were certainly advertisements, the things that we got spun up on, where they were advertising takeover events. It would have been as big or bigger as what we saw last year.
Yeah.
But we worked proactively on that. Chief Talamantes, Chief Smith, and I, Chief Ramey, Chief Roberts, Chief Hutto, all working together, all combining our resources. But we used a tool that the legislature gave us called special event zones, to where those problem areas that we had both in the city of Panama City Beach, the county, and in Panama City, we each created special event zones, which allows us to, when we post those, we're able to do certain things. So tow vehicles that are involved with moving violations, enforce limits on capacity limits on buildings and stuff like that. But the most important point is it gives us the ability to, those that promote those type of events, gives us the ability to sue them to recoup public safety costs. Because the public safety costs for the takeover weekend in 2022 was in the six figures.
Right.
So what we did was we identified those promoters. We reached out to them and we communicated to them, we're using these special event zones. If these get out of control, you're going to be on the hook for six figures.
Right.
And those
Repaying
posts
the
came down
cost.
very, very quickly.
And remember, kids, getting sued is not cool. It's not cool. There's nothing fire about it. Don't get sued. We can talk to you for hours about all the things that we have to offer. SWAT. We have the canine units, the
Canine
puppies.
unit,
We
bomb.
have air unit. We have the puppies. We have
Marine
the dive
unit,
unit. We have the
all of
puppies.
it.
So
Got our jail.
And more
We've got
puppies.
our
we've got the jail. We've
drug
got the
treatment
jail
program at
dogs.
the
We've got
jail.
jail dogs too.
We have Lifeline at the jail. The drug
Lifeline
treatment.
program at the
That's
jail. So
a show in itself, right
that's
there.
what this show is about.
That's
is-
exactly what this is about. Every time that you see the show, we're going to be showcasing a new area of the department, a new area of the office. So
You
that's
will
what
not
we're-
be on every episode.
No.
Will not.
But we will have you back again in the future
Good.
and talk about your goals, where you see the Bay County Sheriff's Office in a
Absolutely.
few years in the future.
Absolutely. And we're, I look forward to seeing what our team, both in front of the camera and behind the camera, is going to be able to do with this. And I think it's hopefully going to be something that the citizens of Bay County look forward to and really can see what we're all about and what we do to keep them safe every day.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If they have questions, and if there's some particular area that they're interested in, they can leave comments
Yeah,
and tell us, I'd like to learn more about.
absolutely.
And
The
we'll be
dogs.
glad. The puppies.
The puppies,
The
absolutely,
puppies.
yeah.
Everybody loves the puppies, and we'll be glad to do that as well. Thank you, Sheriff, for being
Thank you.
here today.
Enjoyed it.